I received a question over YouTube yesterday, and it's actually a really good question. It's less about, well, my answer is less about the individual muscles involved and rather a conceptual answer, and why people get really, really confused, as I did for a very long time, about why we should be inhibiting some muscles or how inhibition actually occurs. So the question was, I have tight left paravertebral muscle. So paravertebral muscles, or paraspinal muscles, or paraspinal, however you want to say it, are just back extensors. Just think of back extensors. They arch your back. They keep you up straight. They are anti-gravitational. So when you stand up and gravity tries to push you down, they have to turn on to keep you upright. So your back muscles. So here's the spine. They're going from the pelvis. There's a lot of them, but some of them go from the pelvis, and then they go all the way up to really the base of the neck. So just think of back extensors, and there's a lot of them, and they keep you upright. So he said, I have tight left paravertebral muscles and tight left QL. Can it prevent me from getting a left ZOA and left posterior mediastinum expansion? The left ZOA, there is a video about it. I highly recommend you pick it up. I highly recommend you watch it if you don't know what the left ZOA is. The left ZOA is this area on the left side where we have to bring the pelvis back and the left ribs down and back to engage our left obliques so that we can position the diaphragm on the left side to pump. Okay, that's the left ZOA. You have to get the left ZOA. Otherwise, you're stuck on the right side by definition. Posterior mediastinum expansion. Mediastinum just think of rib cage, posterior rib cage expansion. When you're extended, when your back is arched, on the left side in particular, right below T8 in the T8 area, so mid-spine, kind of like beneath the left scapula and then down lower. That's what we call the left posterior mediastinum or left posterior rib cage. That gets tight because the back on the left side, if you have tight paravertebrals or paraspinal muscles, your spine is arched. We know that by definition, and this area has to then move back, pop open, and open up to get air. So that's posterior mediastinum expansion. In order to get posterior mediastinum expansion, you need a left ZOA. To get a left ZOA, you need posterior mediastinum expansion. So remember, everything goes both ways. It's never A leads to B. It's A to B and B to A. It is everything works as one, and that's a huge, you have to understand that to see the answer, why I answered the way I did. So I said, I doubt it. It means something is preventing you from getting a left ZOA. Now, he and I are saying the same thing. Again, it's just how you are looking at it. He's asking me, are my tight back muscles and my tight posterior rib cage, left QL, is that preventing me from getting a left ZOA? And I said, I doubt it. It means something is preventing you from getting a left ZOA. Either answer, he isn't wrong. If you don't have a left ZOA, by definition, those areas will be tight. The left QL, because it connects contiguously with hip flexor muscles, which connect contiguously with the diaphragm, is dependent upon a left ZOA to turn off. You don't want to know that you have QL muscle. Your life would be a lot better if you never felt your QL. You never want to feel your QL. If you're aware of your QL, things aren't working right. So let's just get that out there. But because the left QL is so tight, and the left paravertebrals, they are both directly impacted by your inability to get a left ZOA. So from my way of thinking, because I have a very sensory-minded brain, my back tension was not a muscle issue. I'm confident in saying most back pain is not muscle issue. The muscle is what hurts, and sometimes the bones or the joints, but is the sensory information going into your brain that is then being processed and resulting in inappropriate muscular output. That is the problem. So from my point of view, if you've done all these exercises and you still have this issue, the muscles just simply won't relax. Anything that rounds your back and posteriorly tilts the pelvis on the left side is technically a left paravertebral muscle QL inhibitor, which also at the same time gives you a left ZOA. They go together. You can't do one with inhibition and activation go together. So if you're focusing on getting a left ZOA, you're actually in the process, you are at the same time inhibiting these muscles. So it's how you want to think about it. But if you have these paravertebral muscles or left QL that simply won't turn off, they keep being overactive, that's really one of two things. You're still too unstable in your pelvis, okay? You might not have 3s on your abduction and adduction lift tests, and those are the tests that PRI uses to determine whether you're strong enough in that pelvis, whether you have a stable pelvis. So it could be that. It could be those muscles keep activating because your pelvis is unstable, and by definition at that point, you'd be losing your left ZOA. So those muscles being tight would be a reflection of an unstable pelvis. If your pelvis is relatively stable and you have been doing these exercises for a long time, because honestly, it's not that hard to get to a 3 out of 5 in the strength test. It's not. So at that point, you have to think sensory. This person isn't sensing the ground properly, or it could be a visual issue, or it could be a teeth issue. More people simply aren't wearing the right shoes, and their brain is not sensing the ground, so that keeps putting them back into this fight or flight position. And when you go into fight or flight, what happens? Your back extends, paravertebrals will get overactive again, the QL might get overactive again, and you'll lose your left ZOA. For me, it was vision. My visual system was not working appropriately, so my back kept extending. These exercises were quite powerful in that they helped me stay functional, but once my brain was no longer sensing what it needed to sense, I couldn't stop extension from occurring, because extension is how my body was responding to the threat of not sensing the ground properly. So again, it's a great question. He is not wrong. His paravertebrals, the tightness in the paravertebrals, are preventing him from getting a left ZOA. The question is, what is keeping those paravertebrals tight? Again, if you round your back and breathe appropriately and kind of side bend to the left, so you're basically doing this. You could do it on your hands and knees. You could do it in a seated position. It's harder in a seated position. The hands and knees is probably the easiest. That's why I have that exercise on my website. The moment you go into that position and you breathe properly, your paravertebral muscles and tight left QL should be inhibited. They should let go because you're getting the left ZOA. If you can't hold on to it, if you can't hold on to that left ZOA, you can't hold on to your neutrality, your tests keep going back to the old way. If you've been doing these exercises for a long time and you can get a 3 out of 5, most likely it's a sensory issue in my mind. And most sensory issues, from my experience, are simply feet, not sensing the left heel and the arch of the right foot enough. Then again, or you can't turn off your neck, and that can happen for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you need special techniques to turn off your neck. So that would be my answer. He's not wrong. It's just we're looking at it from a different perspective. From my perspective, it is those tight paravertebrals and the tight left QL are indicating a system that cannot maintain a left ZOA. I don't think those muscles are preventing it, but they're tight because he can't get it. And I hope that made sense.